Today is the first official DNVR Rockies show of the offseason, and we have a lot to dive into. Free agent predictions, way too early World Series predictions for 2025, and also talking a little bit about this crazy postseason that we saw. That's all coming up next on the DNVR Rockies podcast. What is up? What is up? What is up, everyone? It is a beautiful Friday afternoon here in Denver. We are on the race to 100,000 subscribers here at DNVR on the DNVR Rockies podcast, at DNVR as a whole. It is a beautiful day here, live from the Toyota Lounge. I'm Christian Saez, your host for the DNVR Rockies podcast, and today is a interesting day. I don't know if it's a good day from a baseball perspective because, look, it's the first official show that we're doing here of this 2024-25 Major League Baseball offseason, and hopefully it's an active offseason here this year for the Rockies. Now, I've done a ton of shows already because, unfortunately for us, the Rockies have been in the offseason for about a month now. Literally. Their last game was on September 29th, and they have not played a lick of baseball since then. So I've already done some shows, had some conversations around, hopefully what this offseason looks like. And we're going to get into a little bit deeper here today. But, the long winter begins right now, right? And the Dodgers able to come off as the World Series champions. I already see we've got some comments here. Ohtani is not human, by Oniel Mendez in the Toyota chat. I agree with you. He is not human. And although he didn't have the postseason and I should say World Series that I think we all kind of expected him to have, he still very much helped his team win a World Series. And we're going to get into that here in just a moment. But before we talk about the World Series, because there is some stuff to unpack still and some conversations to be had about the World Series, I think it's important to start this show by saying today is National Jersey Day across Major League Baseball. So it posed the question to me, and I put this on Twitter, on DNVR_Rockies on Twitter, about, for Rockies fans, what do you think is the best Rockies uniform combo over the years? And Tiff, I did send you a picture of this if you want to pull this up. I have my opinions on this, so if you guys are in the Toyota chat with me on what you think the best Rockies uniform combo over the years are, I want you to chime in on this. You could make the argument that the City Connect jerseys from last year, there are some people that think that was the best uniform combo for the Rockies in recent years. I was actually not a huge fan of the Rockies uniform combo for the City Connect, and I know that might be kind of a hot take. I know there are people out there that loved that. I just am not a green and white combo, color combo fan. Like that, to me, if it was purple and white or even black and white, that felt a little cleaner to me. The green and white was just not my thing. You can hate me for it, I get it, but this is my personal favorite. It's the black cutoff ones and that's back in the World Series days for the Rockies, 2007, early 2000s. The black cutoff tank tops, and there's also I didn't have a picture of this, but there's also another combo that is those similar, that same kind of idea, the cutoffs, but it's the white pinstripe cutoff. That is also an incredible uniform combo for the Rockies. The Rockies, although they're a team that has not had a lot of success consistently over the years, over the history of their franchise, I would say consistently has had pretty good uniform combos. I don't think there's a year in which the Rockies were like, oh, that was disgusting. They've been pretty good for their entire history.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to beat just purple and black. It's such a uncommon color combo, I think, in sports, but it just works, and it's unique, it's creative, and yeah, they've always just done such a good job with their jerseys.
I do feel like, though, the purple and black and white combo, you could go wrong. Like, there are ways in which you could go wrong, and the Rockies have done a good job of not going wrong. Like, maybe there was some years where I think like in the 2010s, they started kind of trying to add some colors in, almost like the Diamondbacks did. And, it wasn't like it was terrible. It just wasn't like the fit. And they moved on pretty quickly from that. I think my least favorite jersey, aside from, and I wouldn't even go as far as to say this, I didn't like the City Connects. They just weren't my favorite. But my least favorite Rockies jersey is honestly just the all purple. And it's just because it's kind of basic and it feels minor league-ish. It's not in a bad way, like in a, it sucked. It's not a bad jersey. But it just wasn't my go-to. It was probably my least favorite of all the jerseys, just the all-purple combos for the Rockies. If I'm going for least favorite jersey in all of baseball, like across all Major League Baseball, it's got to be, and this again might be a hot take, it's got to be the Padres, like bright, I don't even know, like neon bright lettering City Connect jerseys. Those were wild. And some people loved them because of how different they were. They just weren't my thing. Like, that's way too bright. They were white with like the super blinding neon, rainbow colors. It just felt like it was too much for me. My favorite Major League Baseball jersey of all time, and it's on the worst, literally the worst team in the history of baseball, is the Chicago White Sox City Connect jerseys, all black with pinstripes, with the hats that had the little faded gray Chicago skyline on it. Super sick. I am such a fan of the all black jerseys of any combo. Like, it could be all black Rockies jerseys. Like, it's like a Death Star type of lineup like you see with the Yankees and that kind of thing. Like, that's such a sick look.
I'm going to throw you a curveball. I found from Purple Row their list of jerseys over the years.
Okay, Purple Row does incredible work on this kind of stuff.
So we've got 93.
That's good.
Black alternates.
Black and white. Again, I'm all in on anything that is blacked out. So all in on that. The kind of all gray, is that what I'm looking at? Are there pinstripes in that one?
Pinstripes, road grays from 2000 to 2012.
Not bad. I'll take a pinstripe, really, in any combo. Those are incredible.
Pinstripe vests. Yep. I like these. These are cool.
That was my second favorite. The black cutoffs were my first favorite. Those are very high up on my list. That's my favorite right there. Black vests all the way. A black vest for me. I actually think they had it in the exact order that I would have put those in. I might have probably put the gray pinstripes at the bottom for me on that one, but realistically, anything with the vest, those are my top two. So yeah, National Jersey Day. If you have not already, head on to Twitter at DNVR_Rockies. We want you guys to drop a comment there with your favorite jersey combo. But look, we got to get into this World Series because we're going to talk a little bit about this World Series, and then we're going to hit a break. After the break, we're going to talk free agent predictions. There's a ton of great free agents on the market this year, and we're gonna talk about where some of these players might land, and also, is there a chance? Is there a fool's chance in hell that the Rockies get any of these top 25 free agents? We'll get into that after the first break, but before that, I want to talk about the World Series, because the World Series had its ups and downs, and I want to start by talking about this idea that the World Series sucked. Because there was a lot of people on social media after the World Series ended saying, like, that was one of the worst World Series I've ever seen. That World Series was a joke. Like, it might as well have been a sweep for the Dodgers. Like, who cares? It just was a terrible World Series. And I can understand that it might not have lived up to the hype of what we expected to see from this World Series. But to go as far as to say that this World Series was not a good World Series leads me to feel like you weren't really paying attention. Because if you watched any of this World Series, it was an incredible World Series. Now, was it the best World Series of all time? Absolutely not. But I think here's what tripped people up. And I had talked about this leading up to the World Series. On paper, this matchup had the potential to be one of the best World Series in the history of baseball. You have two of the biggest franchises, I would say the two biggest baseball teams in the history of baseball. Historic franchises going head-to-head, two juggernaut offenses, right? You got the two biggest players in all of baseball, in Ohtani and Aaron Judge, right? And so the script was there. The ratings were there. The international attention was there from Japan. And if you're saying, did it live up to that hype? Sure. No, it didn't. It didn't live up to that specific hype. But was it still a great World Series? Yes, it was. Pitching was incredible. There was some good hitting. The Yankees made it interesting at the end. They had a historic collapse in one of the craziest Game 5 collapses and Inning 5 collapses we've ever seen in baseball. Like, there were definitely exciting moments of that World Series. That Game 1 of the World Series where Freddie Freeman hits the walk-off grand slam is going to go down as one of the greatest World Series games ever. So to say that this World Series sucked is a bit of an overreaction in my eyes. Because did it live up to the hype? No. Did it suck? Absolutely not. It was a great World Series. Now, of course, I would love to have shown up here on the show and been able to say we're getting ready for a Game 6 tonight where the Yankees have a chance to send it to Game 7 and we could possibly not see the Dodgers winning a World Series. That would have been great, but that's not the way it went. So let me address the other elephant in the room, which is the idea that the Dodgers bought the World Series and the disdain that most of the baseball world, including a lot of Rockies fans, feel towards the Dodgers for buying a World Series. Here's my reaction to that. Yes, it sucks to see a team who spends $1.2 billion go and win a World Series. But what to me is the greatest equalizer, and I've said this before, I've said it on other podcasts before too here at DNVR. What's the greatest equalizer in, I think, all of the sports world that baseball has that is unlike anything you see in really the rest of sports? The greatest equalizer in my mind is the game of baseball itself. The fact that baseball is so up and down, so inconsistent of a sport, where you can have the best pitcher in the world go out there and, completely have an off day for whatever reason, and the best team in baseball loses. Or a situation in which the Dodgers might have lost the first round of the playoffs this year to the Padres. I mean, and let's make no mistake about it. The Dodgers are, on paper, the best team in baseball. And they could have been bounced in the first round of the playoffs by the Padres. That's the sport that baseball is. It's not as linear as a sport like basketball or football, where, like using basketball, for example, and I'm going to talk about this later at the end of the show. Basketball is a very linear sport. If you have a super team like the Golden State Warriors or even the Denver Nuggets, to keep it local here when they won the championship, where your top 5 starters are like the best in basketball, you're going to be hard pressed to have a team beat you throughout a 7-game series or a 5-game series. Baseball is incredibly different when it comes to that. So yes, the Dodgers had an advantage by the fact that their ownership said, we're going to go spend an absurd amount of money to be competitive this year. But when you get to the postseason, as the Mets showed us, all bets are out. It is everyone for themselves. And so to go as far as to say that the Dodgers bought themselves a World Series, yeah, they helped. Their payroll helped. But they still had to show up and win. And if you're a baseball fan, that is easier said than done. So, with that in mind, I give credit, and I feel like I'm going to vomit by saying this, but I give credit where credit is due. The Dodgers started this year as the on paper best team in baseball. And they went out, and despite all the injuries and the ups and downs of a baseball season, which we all know how challenging that can be to be consistent, they went out and got a World Series championship. They got a ring, and they did it against some really, really good teams. So we have to acknowledge the fact that the Dodgers capitalized on that. Also, a little side note on this, like the Dodgers capitalized on the fact that the Yankees were an incredibly flawed team. I spoke with Drew Goodman, the Rockies broadcaster, on the show on Wednesday, and he said it, like the Yankees are a very flawed team, and they showed that. They were up 5-0 in Game 5 of the World Series, a game in which you had your best pitcher on the mound who had a no-hitter. You had your perennial superstar finally get a home run in Aaron Judge. Jazz Chisholm went back-to-back on home runs. And then the Yankees said, you know what? We're going to just completely, we're going to wet the bed here. And they did in the 5th inning. They allowed the Dodgers to come back, and you know what the Dodgers did? They capitalized on it. And a lot of teams wouldn't be able to do that. So I want to talk after this break about, what it means to have a team that spends money versus a team that doesn't. Because let's be realistic. The Rockies aren't spending a $1.2 billion this offseason, right? So I think part of the other issue with Rockies fans, and I'm included in this, where we get upset is we say, you hate to see the Dodgers go out and win a championship when they spend $1.2 billion because we know that's never going to happen for us. We're not going to spend that kind of money because we're not an LA market. So what does that mean to the Rockies organization? Well, let's talk about that when we come back. But before we do, we got to give a shout out to our friends over at Blue Chew. Are you looking for an opportunity to boost your confidence in the bedroom? Well, you need to check out Blue Chew. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, but it's at a fraction of the cost. And the best part about Blue Chew is you can do it all online. You don't have to go into a doctor's office. You don't got to sit in a waiting room. You don't got to have an awkward conversation with a nurse or a medical provider. You could do all of this online. You log in to BlueChew.com. You consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days, which is awesome because it's so uncomfortable. This is such an uncomfortable topic for a lot of men to deal with. ED is something that is hard for anyone to manage, and especially if you're in a committed and serious relationship, or even if you're not, it's not something you want to have that conversation with as many times as possible. You want to limit the amount of times you have to talk about that, and you want to be able to get yourself to a place where you can be ready when the moment comes up. So Blue Chew, you can take it anytime, day or night, once you're approved, so you can plan ahead. You can be ready whenever that opportunity comes up. Try to avoid all of those uncomfortable conversations and take advantage of the great offers that Blue Chew has right now. For our listeners, you can try Blue Chew for free when you use promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Just $5 in shipping costs. That's BlueChew.com, promo code ALLCITY. To receive your first month free, visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. Well, we also got to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time, because Game Time is the best when it comes to getting tickets for any event, whether you're into sports, theater, live events, music, whatever it is. Game Time has you covered, and they have an incredible app that has some awesome features. The best feature in my eyes, the Game Time Picks feature. It helps you kind of filter through all the fluff so that it shows you the incredible deals, only the best of the best deals. So you can get great seats for a great price. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They show you the total cost, so you don't have to get surprised at the end when there's all these extra fees that come in that all these other carriers, will charge you at the end. You say, oh, these are $20 tickets. That looks great. And then you show up to check out, and it's like, wait, why am I paying $50 now? Game Time shows you the total price right up front, so you get an idea of what you're going to pay. It's also the lowest price guarantee from Game Time, so you get ticket coverage, your purchase is covered, and they will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets that are cheaper somewhere else. So you got to check out Game Time. They do incredible work. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Get the Game Time app, create an account, use code DNVR for $20 off your purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DNVR. $20 off. Download Game Time. What time is it? It's game time. All right, so got to talk about, this whole idea that the Dodgers spent, $1.2 billion. And, will a team like the Rockies ever be able to compete with that? Well, we're going to kind of dive deeper into this as the show goes on. But, look, first and foremost, I got to state the obvious, that the Rockies will never be the Dodgers on a payroll standpoint. We are not LA. We are not New York. We're not Boston. We're not Chicago. Okay, and that's okay. We have an incredible fan base here. We have an incredible market here, as we've seen from the Nuggets, as we've seen from the Avs Stanley Cup run, the Nuggets championship, the Broncos. Like this is a incredible sports market here in Denver that is slept on by a lot of people. And I would go as far as to say that the Rockies could lead the charge in that, with the hype that the Rockies would get if the Rockies were to make it to a World Series. And we've seen it. We've seen Rocktober in Colorado and how insane that can be here. However, we still have to be realistic in understanding that this is Denver, Colorado. This is not LA. Okay? So our TV revenue, our sponsorships, our jersey sales are just not going to be what they are when you're talking about the Yankees and the Dodgers. So, with that in mind, how does a team like the Rockies go about getting to a place where they can be competitive with the payroll that they have? And you have to also remember that we're taking a step back on payroll this year because of a lower TV revenue and all of those kind of things. It doesn't help when you lose 6 seasons in a row, including back-to-back 100-loss seasons. So now as we get set for this offseason that hopefully has a chance to be competitive between, the free agent market and trades and the guys that the Rockies can use to move here, and a minor league system that is ready to burst here, the Rockies are going to start looking at what kind of moves do we need to make to be successful. Now, I've talked about this before. I'm going to play a clip for you here in a little bit. We're a few minutes away from that, but I'm going to play a clip for you here where I spoke with some other Rockies reporters about this very topic to get deeper into this. But I do think there's a world in which the Rockies can be competitive with the limited payroll. Look at the Cleveland Guardians, who, yes, did not make the World Series this year, but made a good run into the ALCS, and were not able to overcome that in the ALCS, but they had a $106 million payroll. That's less than the Rockies had, right? Look at last year, the Rangers and the Diamondbacks. These are teams that have lower payrolls than the Mets, the Dodgers, the Yankees, and they were able to be competitive. So there is a formula in which that can work. And I'm not going to blame the Dodgers for taking advantage of what they have at their disposal. Now, what I want to see that's different than what we have seen is an ownership that says, you know what, we recognize where we're at. We recognize we're not going to go spend $1 billion this offseason, but we're going to be aggressive in what we can do, right? There are free agents that we can be aggressive about. We're not just going to throw money at the wall at guys like Chris Bryant that, in looking back, yes, hindsight's 20/20, but it wasn't the most thought out deal, despite the possible upsides that Chris Bryant had. The writing was kind of on the wall with that deal. Okay, but we need to make Denver, Colorado a place that is appealing for other free agents to want to come sign here. Because I'm about to, in just a moment, go into the list of free agents that are currently available. And if we're going to be realistic, how many of these guys want to come play at Coors Field? Not just from an altitude standpoint. I'm talking from a winning standpoint. That's, I think, the biggest narrative you have to shift, is that right now, Denver, Colorado doesn't have the reputation of winning that a lot of guys that are on the free agent market want to see. So what do we have to do to get ourselves to a place where we can be a popular landing spot? Not even a popular landing spot, but kind of an intriguing landing spot for some of these guys. Because look, everyone wants to go to Philadelphia, Los Angeles, New York. Yes, we get that. That's the easy route for some of these guys. But how do we become a good fit for someone that says, you know what, I want to mix things up. I like what those guys in Colorado are doing. I'm seeing that youth movement right now, and I think that I could be the right fit for that franchise in that moment. That's what I want to be able to sell to teams. If you're the Colorado Rockies, I want to be able to sell that narrative to guys in free agency to say, look, we are on the up and coming. Yes, we have had some struggles over the years, but right now we're turning the tide. And take notice. Major League Baseball, because the Rockies, to quote Coach Prime, we coming. That's the vibe I want to get from the Rockies front office. There you go. We coming. Okay, and I don't feel that yet from the Rockies. I just feel like I'm yelling into an echo chamber here, but I'm passionate about it. I want to see the Rockies get passionate about this offseason, right? So let's get into it. Free agency predictions. We're going down the line here. Juan Soto, straight off the top. Dude's going to take $600 million minimum. I've already said I don't think he's worth $700 million. But he is probably going to take $600 million. My prediction, I don't think he's going to re-sign with the Yankees. If you saw what he said in his post-game comments, the dude did not seem very happy about re-signing with the Yankees. I don't think he's going back. Now, do I think he's going to go with the Dodgers? God, I hope not. So what am I going to say? I think Juan Soto sees how close the Philadelphia Phillies are in Philadelphia, how much of a juggernaut that team could be. And I think he's going to go to Philadelphia. He's going to join Bryce Harper, Alec Boehm, and that crazy franchise out there in Philadelphia. I could see Juan Soto being a Philly. Corbin Burns going down the list, right? Corbin Burns, phenomenal pitcher. Had a great year. He is looking at a pretty big contract here. Here's where I think Corbin Burns might end up. I think Corbin Burns is going to be a San Francisco Giant. And the reason I think Burnsy's going to go to the Giants is because I think the Giants are going to lose Blake Snell. And Blake Snell, going down the list here, to Blake Snell now. Blake Snell is intriguing because I actually think Blake Snell is one of those guys that we could somehow see the Rockies making a run at. That it would be crazy. But I do think that's one of those guys on the list where you could say, hey, hypothetically, could Blake Snell be the answer for the Rockies? We need a veteran pitcher that is consistent, can get strikeouts. He'd be a good name. I think Rockies fans could be excited about him. Here's the issue. He would cost too much money, and I don't think Colorado seems like a good landing place for him. I don't think he would want to come to Coors Field. No pitcher does, but I just don't see Blake Snell doing that. He's also looking at a 9-year, $270 million deal. Rockies just aren't going to be shelling out that kind of money. Dodgers have showed interest. I could see the Dodgers picking up Blake Snell, especially given their struggles with the starting pitching rotation. Granted, they had 2 guys that were injured, but just wanted to put that out there. Alex Bregman. Don't know, don't care. Third baseman, not coming to the Rockies. Don't like him. Moving on. Max Fried, pitcher, 6-year, $170 million deal. Prediction. I think the Padres could scoop up Fried. I think Max could go to San Diego. The Padres have an incredible pitching rotation, but I think they're trying to deepen that as they've seen time and time again how hard it is to pitch in the postseason consistently. I think we could see Fried going to the Padres. Pete Alonso. Now, we talked on the roundtable about Pete Alonso, and if there was an opportunity or a chance that he signs in Colorado, no way in hell is Pete Alonso coming to play at Coors Field. Dude is an East Coast guy. He loves playing for the Mets. I think after his insane historic home run that saved the Mets postseason, I think he re-signs with the Mets. I don't think I also don't even want Pete Alonso. I think he's on the Chris Bryant trajectory of his career, kind of on the downhill slope. Yeah, maybe he's got another year or two, but I think he's going to end up signing for more than what he's worth because he had the kind of play out, showing out at the end of his postseason run. I think he re-signs with the Mets. Willy Adames, Brewers shortstop, looking at a 6 to 7 year deal, $100 to $200 million prediction. Willy's interesting for me. Because the Rockies have already said that they're planning on, or there's reports that the Rockies are planning to move on from the second baseman, Brendan Rodgers. So is there a world in which you say that Ezequiel Tovar gets moved over to second base, or even Ryan McMahon gets moved to second base, and Adames becomes the shortstop, or vice versa, Adames goes to second base, and the Rockies pad their defensive infield? I think on paper that would look great. He could possibly see, like I said, a affordable deal for the Rockies, looking at close to $110 million for 6 to 7 years. I just don't know if fielders and hitters, yes, but I don't know if fielders are really what the Rockies are after. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be blown away if the Rockies took that. I think that would be a good deal for the Rockies, depending on how much they could sign him for. But he'd be an interesting prospect to look at in that regard. Christian Walker, D-backs first baseman. Rockies are set on a first baseman. I don't really know. I don't really know where Christian Walker goes. I'm just going to say it. I haven't dived too deep into where he could end up. Does he go somewhere like the Brewers? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Christian Walker's kind of up in the air for me. Teoscar Hernandez is the same vibe in the same way. The main guy that I want to draw a reference on, and I'm going to hit it after the break though, Anthony Santander. And he's an interesting prospect, an interesting free agent this offseason for the Rockies, because the Rockies have a bit of a question mark in the outfield that they're trying to fill this offseason. And so I want to talk about him when we come back from break. And I actually want to play a clip from our roundtable discussion with some of the other Rockies reporters that happened on Tuesday, because Anthony Santander could be an interesting one, but we're going to get to that after the break. First, though, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Toyota. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR, and I could say the official vehicle of the Saez family as well, because I've had Toyotas my entire life. My mom has a Toyota Tacoma. I have a Toyota Highlander. I'm going to get a new Toyota once my Toyota finally stops working. It's got $250,000 miles on it, and it's still running like a charm. I mean, it is kicking it. It could end up with 300,000 miles for all I know. But when that time comes to finally, move on from my beautiful 2007 Toyota Highlander, I'm going to be staying in the Toyota world, because Toyota's the best. They are truly the best when it comes to vehicles. They've got so many different options. If you like the souped up SUVs, 4Runner, RAV4s, the Highlanders are good. Family cars, you can also go with the truck route, Tacomas, Tundras, or you can go, a little smaller size. You can go with the Corolla, or you can go with the Camry, one of my personal favorites. But no matter where you go, Toyota has a vehicle that can fit your needs. So visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe in Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Aurora, Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. Also got to give a shout out to our friends over at Coors Light. You can see, well, actually you probably can't see it, but we got a Coors Light bucket right in front of me, and it's Friday. What do we call it? Fridays on the show. They used to. FAC, there you go. I was like, they used to call it a Friday Afternoon Club. Is that what it was?
Yep, that's good. Exactly. There you go.
I remember I was on a couple pods back in the day before I came in full time, but I might be facking it up after this show with some Coors Lights downstairs. We're going to be celebrating getting to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're not there yet. You can see the subscriber count at the top. But the best way to pair a subscription watch party? Coors Light, because Coors Light goes well with anything. And, I'm not fortunate enough to get to enjoy Coors Light in my favorite possible Coors Light environment. That's at Coors Field. Surprise there. But, it just because the baseball season's over for the Rockies doesn't mean that you can't choose to chill, embrace that chill mindset. Come hang out with us, grab a Coors Light, and enjoy our watch party here as we get ready for the 100,000 subscriber mark after this. And Coors Light is an incredible light beer. And also you can get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instant Cart by choosing and going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Please celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company based in Golden, Colorado. All right, let's circle back here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. Talking about free agents. And the man Anthony Santander came up in the conversation I had on our Rockies Roundtable the other day with Kevin Henry of Just Baseball, Noah Spyrick of Blake Street Banter, and Aaron McBride of Blake Street Banter as well. We're talking about, possible landing spots for some of these free agents, and the name Anthony Santander came up. He's a guy who hit 40-plus home runs. And so I want to first play this clip. It's about 2 minutes, showing a little bit of our conversation about why he could be a good fit for the Rockies. And then I'll dive a little deeper into that analysis here in just a moment. But Tiff, we ready to go on that clip? Let's do it.
And I'm going to throw out there the wild card, and that is going to be there's going to be a veteran outfielder. It may be a Jake Cave. It may be somebody that we do not expect. I don't think any of us had Jake Cave on our bingo card this time last year. But I do think that there's going to be some veteran outfielder brought in that is going to be ready if Nolan Jones doesn't become Nolan Jones again. Or if, there is an issue with taking that next step or whatever it might be. And again, I think that's a very familiar place for Bud, is to have that veteran. Even if he's not starting, he's that guy that he's going to pinch hit or he's going to, work into the lineup somehow.
Well, and Sam Hilliard, I think, could also kind of be that guy in a way. Like, Hilliard has his ups and downs, but he still has the ability to hit the ball 500 feet, as he showed in the last game of the year, hitting one up to the Jack Daniels Terrace. And he's a pretty good outfielder, and so, he might be a guy that gets rotated in as well. But I agree with you. I do. And I agree with what Renee had said earlier. She was talking about this is just the Rockies thing. They bring in veteran outfielders specifically, but veteran players to supplement that youth movement that they're in.
Yep.
And I've got a name. What if the veteran guy that they bring in, and this would be a major surprise, but what if it's Anthony Santander, who just hit 44 homers in Baltimore? That could be a show at Coors Field. There you go. Thumbs up.
Okay, would that be enough then to get the fans excited if you said this is our big free agent guy this year?
45 home get me excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can sell it. Yes.
Yes.
It's definitely an easier sell than what Jake Cave what Jake Cave was earlier.
Yeah.
They had, if Bellinger opts out, he was on the talking piece. Is that an option that we consider? Because there's ties. I don't know.
No.
I'd be shocked.
Cody Bellinger is another Chris Bryant, man. He's on the downslope of his career, been plagued with injuries. He has a very specific swing style that has a ton of holes if he can't find his swing. He's a guy that and he probably costs too much, to be honest. For what he's going to be worth, I would be disappointed if they got Bellinger. As you can see, I was a huge fan of Cody Bellinger coming to the Rockies. No, To circle back, though, to the Santander comment, look, he's looking at probably a 5-year, $115 million deal. So that might be on the higher end. I think the Rockies might be a little shell-shocked after what happened with Chris Bryant, so I don't know if we're dishing out $100 million this offseason. And I get it. Like, you gotta reel things back in financially. But the Rockies outfield is going to have a big question mark because Nolan Jones, although he had an incredible start to his tenure with the Rockies, fell off the map really hard this last year. And there were injuries. He was dealing with, his wife giving birth to their first child, which is obviously very, very challenging to balance between, a regular baseball season and trying to be competitive. And, there's just so many X factors there with Jones. And just for whatever reason, and maybe it was just an off year for him, but for whatever reason, he wasn't the guy this year for the Rockies. His defense kind of fell off at the end. His hitting was struggling. And Jordan Beck had some good flashes, but I don't know if he's your next permanent guy. He has some room to grow. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, Jordan Beck is a slouch, but he hasn't reached postseason material yet, for the Rockies. So yes, Brenton Doyle is set in his outfield role with the Rockies, but what else are we going to see out there? And Renee Deschert, who was in the chat, if you guys were there with us on the Rockies Roundtable show, she was in the chat during that show and saying, and she's another Rockies reporter, covers the Rockies with Purple Row, the Rockies have a history of bringing up veteran players, especially to have in the outfield. We saw Charlie Blackmon out there, and he ended up switching kind of more into the DH role in his latter half of his career. But, he was kind of your veteran outfielder that was there. And then, you brought in Jake Cave and Sam Hilliard to be the veterans out there in the outfield. for whatever reason, the Rockies just historically have really relied on a veteran outfielder. Now, I don't know if they're going to go the veteran route for the outfielder spot, but I could see that being a position that they attack this offseason. If you can get a guy who hits 45-plus home runs in Anthony Santander, he's not going to be looking at a $500 million contract this offseason. It'd be a surprise, but I think that could be someone that would push the table forward a little bit for the Rockies. If the Rockies can sign someone who's going to move the needle as a free agent signing, I think that gets them at least one step closer to being a team that becomes more of a landing spot or a enticing landing spot for some young players around the league. Because I said it just a minute ago. Right now, Denver, Colorado, Coors Field, the Colorado Rockies is not a successful landing spot for a lot of free agents right now. So if you can find a way to convince someone that has a really high upside and is not on the downward slope of their career to come play at Coors Field, that could be big. That could be big this offseason. So just some Rockies stuff to talk about, to circle around on, and to think about. We're going to talk a lot more about that as the offseason continues. But I want to go back to the postseason conversation because this was a weird postseason. It was a weird, wacky, wild, and exciting postseason. So I want to go through some of these questions and get your guys' thoughts on this as well. But I'll share my opinions as I do here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. But first question up about this postseason. What team was the biggest letdown in the month of October? And there was a couple for me. But if I'm going biggest, like my peak of letdown for this postseason, it's got to be the Phillies. I think the Phillies could have won the World Series this year based on how they played in certain parts of the regular season, and they just were not able to pull it together in the postseason. And so the Phillies getting bounced in the first round, coming off of a bye, they were the only one seed. Well, I guess the Brewers, right? No, yeah, the Brewers also, but they got bounced. In the postseason, and the Phillies were kind of a surprise. If I could go back even before October started, the biggest letdown and surprise of this postseason from a negative standpoint was the Diamondbacks not being there, because the Diamondbacks came out of the All-Star break as the best team in baseball. I'm talking better than the Dodgers. And then all of a sudden, their collapse into oblivion, into not even making the postseason, was something to be studied. Like our friends over at PHNX, I don't know how they're even waking up in the mornings after that historic collapse that they're from being a World Series team, having one of the best teams in baseball, to not even making the postseason, not even making a wild card. Now, it does go on to show how competitive the NL wild card race was. However, that was still a shock to me. What team was the biggest surprise in a positive way? Is there any debate at all? You guys are probably yelling it at your screens. It's the New York Mets.
Yes, I got it right.
You were correct there, Tiffany, because the New York Mets were just they blew up the whole. They blew our minds the entire postseason run. One historic win after another. One walk-off, crazy comeback on the verge of elimination. Yes, they did not make the World Series, and to be fair, they didn't really deserve to make the World Series. Although, would the Mets have been a better matchup for the Dodgers than the freaking Yankees? Maybe. But the Mets were the biggest surprise in at least this postseason. So it bodes the question of, was this one of the best postseasons in recent memory? Let's go down the list. You had unbelievable games. You had close games. You had underdog teams to root for. You had series that were determined by huge, historic franchises that were throwing haymakers at each other. I will still go down saying that the real World Series was the Dodgers-Padres series. That was the World Series matchup to me. You had great storylines. You had teams that absolutely hated each other. I would go as far as to say this is the best postseason since 2016. Since that historic Cardinals, postseason Astros where they were just, that was a crazy postseason. The Rockies ended up going to the postseason in 2017, 2018. But as a whole, this postseason was probably one of the craziest that I've seen in recent memory. I've seen some crazy postseasons. After the break, though, I want to talk a little bit about the umpires from this World Series, because I don't like to be the guy that goes in on umpires, because that's just not like, umpiring is a hard job. But I would make the argument that was one of the worst umpiring World Series I've ever seen. And we'll get into that in just a moment. But before we do, got to give some love to our friends over at Breck Distillery. Breck has the best bourbon in the world, in my eyes. Not just because they're a sponsor. I've enjoyed Breck from before I was even a part of DNVR. When I moved to Colorado, got to hang out with some of the DNVR Broncos guys at the tailgates. And if you are familiar with DNVR Broncos tailgates, you know that you can't walk 10 feet without seeing Breck Distillery bourbon. People taking shots and drinking cocktails. And there's a reason that we are partnered with Breck Distillery, because they are truly the best. They were founded in 2008. They're most widely known for their bourbon whiskey, but they've got some other incredible blends that they produce as well. Their distillery is the world's highest distillery, which I don't know what the science behind all of that is, but it feels like that probably means something. Maybe that makes it taste a little smoother. I don't know. Maybe we're getting off the rails here, but whatever they do it really, really well. It's an award-winning bourbon whiskey. So right now, we've got an incredible deal. You can enter to win 2 tickets to Denver Broncos games in the Breck Bourbon Whiskey Suite. Share how you celebrate Broncos by posting your photos to social media using hashtag Broncos Bourbon. Also use code DNVR at checkout for free shipping on all orders over $99. Learn more at BreckenridgeDistillery.com. Well, we also got to share some love with our friends over at Circle K, because Circle K, they're more than just a gas station. If you've ever been to Circle K, especially if you've walked inside, you know they've got some incredible goodies, snacks, food, drinks, soft drinks, fountain drinks, all of the above. The list goes on, but whatever you're into when it comes to, going on road trips and all that kind of stuff, getting gas at Circle K is great. They've got some good deals that we're going to talk about in just a moment, but their food and snacks and all of that is truly the best. And so, like I said, it's time to talk about their Circle K Inner Circle, because if you enter your phone number and email to the Circle K app, you get a free membership. Just like you do, like I say, it's very similar to like a grocery store membership, right? You type in your phone number when you check out and you get discounts. Same type of deal for Circle K. So you can sign up for the Inner Circle with Circle K app. You receive 25 cents off per gallon on your next 5 fill-ups. You get discounts and deals on food, drinks, and more. So find it in the app under Inner Circle/offers. Download the Circle K app and sign up for the Inner Circle exclusive offers. New offers, purchase clubs, and sweepstakes are uploaded weekly. All right, getting back into this postseason conversation as we wrap up here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. I got to say, and I have to point this out, though, I was watching the World Series, and I'm texting my mom. And my mom and sister are diehard baseball fans. They've been baseball fans their entire lives. So they know baseball really well. They could go toe-to-toe. They know ball. They could go toe-to-toe with any of you guys. And they're texting me the whole time, like, another missed call. What was that strike call? And I even sent you a graphic, Tiff, because this was from one at-bat. And I don't remember exactly what specific at-bat this picture was from, but it was a crucial at-bat. And if you see, the red highlighted balls are strikes. Those are called strikes. The green are balls. First of all, you circled right there. There's 2 balls that are borderline, or 2 strikes, I should say, that are borderline, that are called balls. And then you got, what is that? Is that number 7? That is just way out in the middle of nowhere. And that's called a strike. And it wasn't just one at-bat. It was numerous at-bats. I mean, I was in the Discord, the DNVR Rockies Discord, and we're going back and forth, and everyone's like, this ump show has been terrible. And it determined some of these crucial moments of the game. Now, I'm not in favor of getting robo-umpires. I am a hard out on robo-umps. That is not the answer. But is it worth me bringing back up my idea of this idea of having a ball and strike challenge? Each team having the ability to maybe have 1 or 2 challenges that you lose no matter what. So guys can't, with baseball challenges, if you win your challenge, you get to retain the challenge. Like, that's not how it would work. You have literally, let's just say, a max of 2 challenges for balls and strikes. When you use those 2, they're done, which makes it more beneficial for teams to use challenges when it matters late in the game, when it's a crucial moment. It incentivizes teams to do that. But it would allow teams to challenge when they see, hey, that was a ball and strike call that determined the outcome of a game or got a team out of an inning when it was clearly not the way it was supposed to go. I think teams should be able to challenge that. And I think that because we have the technology to see, was that a ball or a strike? And I just don't like the idea of teams losing games, especially in the postseason, because an umpire just got it wrong, right? And so that was a challenge for me. And I just had to bring that up here. But I want to get into a hot take debate here. Tiff, are you ready for this? We'll finish the show here with a little hot take debate. And I want to start by saying I love basketball and I love the Nuggets. I call college basketball for a living starting on Tuesday for me. Is my first college basketball game, my first college basketball broadcast of the year. So I am a basketball guy and baseball guy. However, I'm going to make the argument right now, with all the bias in the world coming in on the DNVR Rockies podcast, that postseason baseball is better than postseason basketball. And I have some stats that can back this up for you. But here's where I think people get caught up. Okay? Basketball 100% wins the contest of being more engaging throughout the season. I love baseball, obviously. But baseball could be a snooze fest through the majority of the 162-game regular season. We enjoy baseball for so many other reasons during the regular season. It's a great way to get out and get outside and enjoy a beautiful ballpark, hang out with some friends, go up to the rooftop bar. You could turn baseball on. I've talked to Spencer Smith, Big Drive Spence, plenty of times. I'm like, I miss having Rockies games on in the background while I'm like cleaning my house. Like it's a vibe, right? But very few of us are locked in this to a random July baseball game as we are to a middle of the season Denver Nuggets game. And let's just be real about that. However, I mean, the action, and like I said, the action in basketball is fast, whatever. Like, all of that is great, and it's super fun. However, there usually isn't as much depth in the sport when it comes to the postseason in basketball as there is in baseball because of just the way baseball is lined up as a sport. There's so much ups and downs, and I would even make this kind of similar to like hockey, where you're on the when you're in postseason baseball world and your team is playing, you're locked into every pitch because every single moment your pitcher could have a no-hitter going into the 8th inning and it's a 1-run game, and all of a sudden they make one mistake and the game is turned upside down. Right? Hockey is the same way. It's a 0-0 hockey match, hockey game in the postseason, and Georgiev gives up 1 goal. And all of a sudden, it's bedlam, right? Like, we're losing our minds, okay? Baseball is the same way. Basketball isn't like that, right? It ebbs and flows a little bit more, and it's more linear. And I said this earlier in the show. Basketball is a sport in which if you have the best team, the best lineup, the best players, more likely than not, you're probably going to win, especially if you're playing a significantly lower team. From a talent perspective. There's a reason the Golden State Warriors won like 50 championships over the last 50 years, right? So again, I'm not saying this isn't a knock on basketball. I love postseason basketball. I just think there's a little bit more depth in baseball. You talk about the win probability charts in baseball are all over the place. Basketball is less so. It like I said, it's more linear. It ebbs and flows throughout a game. Whereas in baseball, it's like, oh my God, the Yankees are going to win Game 5 of the World Series because they're dominating. And then the next thing you know, it's like, the Yankees will never win a game again. And then it's like, oh, the Yankees have the bases low. It's just all over the place. Okay? So, that aside, let's look on paper. Okay? Let's look at the viewership between the World Series and the NBA Finals of last year. The 2024 World Series average viewership in the U.S., this is not including Japan and international. In the U.S., the 2024 World Series this year averaged 15.8 million viewers. It was a 65% jump from last year, by the way. The NBA Finals last year, between the Celtics and the Mavs, very good teams, a huge fan base in Boston, averaged 11.3 million viewers. That's a 4 million viewer increase that baseball viewership had over basketball. World Series Game 5 viewership had 18.6 million. Again, not including Japan. But let's even look last year, because last year was two very small franchises, the Diamondbacks, the Rangers. They averaged 11.5 million viewers, which is still just a bit more than the NBA Finals, which had 11.3 million average viewers. So, yes, viewership aside, the baseball still comes off as America's second biggest sport when it comes to viewership. Football blows everyone out of the water. We're not even going to talk about that. But if you want to circle around though, to look at it from a different angle, because I'm arguing with myself here. I'm going to take the angle as if we had Brendan Vogt on the show arguing in favor of basketball or Adam Mares. Well, basketball is more of a cultural sport. Let's be completely real. It's a sport that, people like the jerseys and the names and the Hollywood behind it. Baseball's got a little bit of that, but you've got the LeBron James, the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, the even Jokic has become a cultural icon. Joel Embiid has become a cultural hate icon because we all hate Joel Embiid. So if you're looking at profits, Major League Baseball profited $11.6 billion last year. That's huge, by the way. NBA profited $13 billion. Most of that probably came from jersey sales, sponsorships, those kind of things. Again, the cultural side of it. So I just thought that was an interesting debate. I'll probably have this debate. Maybe I'll sit down with Adam Mares or we'll have this conversation at some point, because I'm happy to back up what I'm saying and have that conversation with people, because I just like the dynamics between, the excitement of watching baseball in the postseason versus, watching other sports in the postseason. So, yeah, thought that was an interesting one. Tiff, I want to let you respond to this, though. Do you have a take on that? Do you have an opinion, or are you pretty neutral on that one?
No, I was actually really surprised by those numbers. I would have thought that they would have been lower, only just because I'm not a consumer of baseball or basketball, but I would have thought basketball would have had more viewers. No, that's really interesting.
It does help that this postseason, like I said, was incredible. The storylines were there. There was a lot of like FOMO for people. Like, people were getting this like fear of missing out. Like, oh my gosh, look at the chaos at Dodger Stadium. Look at the chaos at Yankee Stadium. And so there was a lot of that going on. But again, I think what trips people up is that the regular season for baseball is kind of a non-factor for most people, which I totally understand. But then you get to the postseason and it's like, it is a different experience.
Well, it's not like the NBA's doing really well with their regular season viewership numbers right now either.
They're down
right now. So I mean, that's very interesting.
And to back that up for baseball viewership is up right now, surprisingly, in certain markets. I mean, the Rockies aren't, but certain markets, viewership is up. The Dodgers with Ohtani, who trigger warning says, Ohtani was a non-factor in the World Series. Well, a lot of those eyeballs in the World Series came for Ohtani, whether he showed up or not. Like he was the guy. For a lot of the eyeballs in the World Series. So let's finish up the show, though, here with a way too early World Series prediction for next year. I'm going to go through the odds first, because I have a list of odds that we have on our way too early. If the World Series was happening right now, next year, what would it look like? Can you guess who the World Series favorite is for next year? And trigger warning also makes a good point on this one in the Toyota chat. Dodgers going to be solid for 5 years. Yeah, it's the Dodgers. They're plus 400 favorites to win the World Series next year. Yankees plus 700. I'm surprised about that, by the way, given how much of a bad World Series. We can't swear anymore on the podcast, so I won't. But how much of a bad World Series. Yeah, we'll keep it PG. Braves plus 750, Phillies plus 1,000, Orioles 1,100, Astros plus 1,300, Mets plus 1,400, Padres surprisingly plus 1,500. That's shocking to me. I would have thought the Padres should have been up there ahead of the Orioles. Rangers plus 2,800 and the Mariners plus 2,800 as well. I would not have put the Rangers in that category. I know they've got DeGrom coming back. I know they've got Scherzer coming back, but I wouldn't have put them up there. My way too early predictions for World Series favorites next year, Seattle Mariners. Ooh, I'm saying it now. I'm saying it now. Like, the Seattle Mariners might be a World Series team next year. They were a disaster this year, and I think this was a huge wake-up for them. But I think they could be a World Series team next year. I don't think it's going to be the Orioles' year, much to K-Max's chagrin, but I don't think the Orioles have what it takes yet. I think I'll be a hater. I know. K-Max, our resident Orioles fan. But I do think the Mariners have what it takes. So we'll see. Put it on the board. But yeah, I'd love to say the Rockies were in that conversation, but they gotta prove me wrong here on that one. All right, we're wrapping things up here on the show. Like I said, at 3 p.m. today, we're going to be doing a race to 100,000 subscribers. It's going to be a good time. We might even do some Rockies quiz, some Rockies trivia on that one as well. See if I make a fool of myself. That's at 3 p.m. Find our stream. Celebrate with us as we celebrate you guys, the 100,000 streamers and subscribers on YouTube. So if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel, DNVR Sports. Shout out to our awesome producer, Tiff. We're going to sign off here on the show today. We'll see you guys on Monday for another DNVR Rockies podcast. Have a good weekend.
We all silly like the mayor.